So if you're a longtime fan of my channel, or if you've ever talked to me before, you'll probably know that I am in love with Spyro 1 and 2. Spyro the Dragon is my favorite game of all time. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage is an amazing follow-up to Spyro the Dragon that improved on it in practically every way, and is my second favorite game of all time. That being said, I often forget that the Spyro PS1 series is actually a trilogy. Spyro 1 and 2 have my infinite love, but I hardly ever mention Spyro 3. I find myself constantly coming back to Spyro 1 and 2, even after completing the games 100%, but I almost never touch Spyro 3. And, as it turns out, there's a reason for this.
I am TheStimpyland, traveling into parts unknown. Now come with me. Join me on my journey to do things. Away I go!
Hey look, it's a review of Spyro 3.
Year of the Dragon is a bit of a weird case. Spyro 3 for me is one of those love-hate games, kinda like Crash 3. The bits that are good, I adore, but the bits that are bad, I despise. And while looking at the game as a whole, I'm able to strictly look at the good. When comparing it to its predecessors, the bad really sticks out. I'm going to instead divide this review in half. The first half will cover all of the good, and the second half will cover all the bad. First, however, I'm going to talk about the story, because butts. Spyro 3 takes place not in the Dragon Realms or Avalar, but instead in the Forgotten Worlds. In Spyro 3, we see that all of the dragons and Hunter are baked.
Smoke weed every day.
All of a sudden, she shows up and starts stealing the dragon eggs, until she accidentally wakes Hunter and everyone else up. She then escaped to the Forgotten Worlds by jumping in a hole in the ground. We then see our furry friend once again, this time bringing the eggs she recovered to the generic, uninteresting villain. This is the Sorceress, probably the most boring villain in a Spyro game. All she does is bitch and moan like a bitch. So the bitch has stolen all of the dragon eggs, and now it's up to Spyro and Hunter to stop her. Anyway, let's split the review in two. First, the good. Spyro 3 runs on Spyro 2's engine, meaning the controls are just as tight as before, and I have to say, Spyro is super fun in this game. The levels are now much bigger and larger than before. Spyro 1 had such a distinct and unique motif. The ancient and medieval, but also timeless and magical look was something that was very unique to Spyro the Dragon. Spyro 2 abandoned this and instead went for a more various and random aesthetic. Spyro 3's environments are a good mesh of the two. Simply put, Spyro 3 is a visual masterpiece and is quite possibly the best looking game to ever be put on the PS1. Another thing that Spyro 3 really excels in is the music. Spyro 3's music isn't quite as Spyro-y as Spyro 1 or 2's, but it is much more upbeat this time. Spyro 2's and especially Spyro 1's music was very laid back, but Spyro 3's is instead very fast paced. The fan favorite seems to be Fireworks Factory, although my favorite would probably be Icy Peak, which I'm going to play over the next part because it is really, really awesome. Spyro is fun as fuck to play in this game. He starts out with all of his old abilities that he unlocked from Spyro 2. Unlike another shitty game you guys might know about. Levels are much larger and they are an absolute joy to explore. Spyro 3's regular levels are quite fun, although the best parts of this game are the speedways. Year of the Dragon speedways put Spyro 2 and 1's to shame, and if you disagree, you should be euthanized. The speedways are accompanied by excellent music, tons more to collect, and extra challenges as well. This time, the objectives are much more clear. Sparks will even explain to you the best order to do them in. You might call this hand-holding, but Spyro 3 then shows no mercy with the speedway races. In the speedway races, you race enemies which vary within each of the courses, and it is fucking fun. Secret orb challenges, now called egg challenges, make a return, and they are fun too. This time, they're all played as Hunter, who I swear is suffering from schizophrenic hallucinations of some kind.
Whoa! A bunch of sheep and flying saucers just came out of nowhere and started blasting up the race course!
This game is worth playing just for the speedways alone. They are genius and hands down the best thing to come out of this game. This game just looks phenomenal. Fun levels, open environments, beautiful graphics, fun minigames. There's really nowhere for this game to go wrong. The only way they could possibly screw this up is if they... Oh... Now the bad. I'm gonna get the minor problems out of the way first. The villain of this game, the bitch, is pretty boring to be honest. One of the things that made Ripto such a memorable villain was his constant back and forth banter with Spyro. Ripto made it very clear from the beginning that he hated dragons.
I hate dragons! Yeah!
You constantly saw Ripto throughout the game, as he taunted Spyro, appearing in practically every cutscene. This made the final battle with Ripto that much more intense. After seeing the two butt heads for so long, it was so goddamn satisfying to see one of them come out on top. In Spyro 3, the bitch barely interacts with Spyro. In fact, now that I think about it, the bitch and Spyro don't even meet until the last battle. What the fuck? Oh, and the bitch isn't the only one to suffer this problem. All of the bosses are just not memorable at all. Instead of being the game's main antagonists, they're just creepy random monsters that only get one cutscene as introduction. Perhaps they're trying to use the fear of the unknown to make these bosses unexpected, but at the same time, you didn't really know what to expect when going against Crush or Gulp, or especially Ripto. From all these cutscenes, when would you possibly think that Ripto's fight would be as hard as it was? The first three bosses are pretty fun, but the final boss is seriously underwhelming. It feels like a dumbed down version of Spyro 2's. Here are all the ways the bitch's boss battle exceeds Ripto's. The music is better. You know, that's really all I can come up with at the moment. Spyro 3's boss is similar to Spyro 2's, but instead of the orbs giving you abilities, they let you control vehicles, and boy is this fucking stupid. Thank you. Thank you for giving me two random vehicles that I didn't control at all in my run of the game. And they all control like crap. Spyro 3 also has a generic stock enemy, the Rhinox. One of my favorite things in Spyro 2 was the variety between NPCs. Most of them didn't even work with Ripto, they just fit into the cute little backstory of each level. And what the fuck ever happened to that? Where did the old level intros go? Those gave each level a unique personality and distinction from the others, so why the fuck would you remove that? Tutorials are also a huge pain in the dick. Yes, Spyro 2 did have annoying tutorials, but there is no exaggeration when I say that Spyro 3 will literally interrupt you twice to give you the same snippet of information. No joke here, look!
You can get there by hovering. To hover, just press the triangle button at the end of your glide.
You can hover to get more distance when gliding. Just press the triangle button at the end of your glide.
But these flaws can be put aside, as there is one problem so glaring and ridiculous with this game that it trumps any other minor flaw I can think of. Remember how I kept saying that Spyro's levels were fun? Well, obviously, it's Spyro. In a Spyro game, you should play as Spyro and only Spyro, right? Isn't this obvious? Well, yeah, it is, and I agree. But apparently, it wasn't obvious when they were developing this game, since Spyro 3 adds 5 additional characters to play as. I will say that again. 5 additional characters. Do I even need to go further? I could just end the review right there if I wanted to. In fact, I think I'll do that. Thanks for watching, and I give Spyro 3 a dick out of butt. Look, I am not in any way a game designer, and I'm not sure that I will ever be one, but I don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that having 5 completely new, varying, and different characters is a death sentence. Maybe they could have done what Battle for Bikini Bottom did, letting you play as 2 additional characters occasionally, but almost always focusing on your main character. But apparently that wasn't fucking obvious. All of the new characters control completely different from one another. Yes, it adds variety, but it is too much. This game just feels like a clusterfuck of random characters, and there is nothing redeemable about any of them. I guess I'll have to go over each of the characters now. What fun. Sheila the kangaroo. Sheila is a kangaroo, and like a kangaroo, she can jump really high.
Smoke weed every day.
Every time Sheila jumps, she comes to an almost complete stop, and it makes everything feel awkward and stagnant. Wasn't one of Spyro 2's biggest improvement its fluent and smooth gameplay? Spyro 2 allowed you to ease through the platforming, but Spyro 3 instead has you constantly stopping, making Sheila a tedious character to play as and a fucking chore. It feels fucking weird. Next character, Sergeant Bird. You know, I really don't feel like doing this. Sergeant Bird is quite possibly the worst character in a Spyro game. He fires missiles on his back which lock onto enemies, which is good fun. He can also fly, and oh my god. The task of trying to maneuver this loathsome cunt in the air is a nightmare, and it becomes next to impossible when enemies are throwing shit at you. Maybe when the moon is full, there's a total solar eclipse, all the planets fucking align, and this kid finally learns to shut up, you can maybe get him to land within a mile of your destination. Most of the time, he's just sliding around aimlessly, and it is such a goddamn chore to move. Movement is stagnant and awkward. There is nothing fluent or smooth about it. Why is Spyro 3 working to undo the improvements of Spyro 2? It makes no sense. Also, remember when I said Spyro 2's music was the weakest of the original trilogy? I'm gonna take that back now. I mainly said that because of how annoying Colossus's music was, but Colossus is fucking queen compared to what this game offers. This game's music is otherwise phenomenal, but it has what just might be one of the most atrocious pieces of music to ever be placed into a video game, which would be the music that plays in Sergeant Bird's stages. His droning, awful, terrible music actually had me pausing the game to turn the music off. In a Spyro game. I feel like I'm gonna get fucking PTSD from listening to this music. Oh, that stupid bullshit, Not even Crash Twinsanity's music was this bad. For fuck's sake, Crash Twinsanity. A game that thinks that the only problem with the Crazy Bus theme is that it's not an acapella. Stewie, baby, what are you doing to me? What you do? Did you steal from the cookie jar again? Stewie, I didn't want to have to fucking do this, but looks like I'm gonna have to do it.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad 'cause I'm brown.
I was originally supposed to 100% this game, and up to this point I was, but while playing as Sergeant Bird in the level Enchanted Towers, I just paused the game and quit. It wasn't until I got back to the homeworld did I realize that I was supposed to complete the level. I'm serious, guys, this was not meant to happen at all. And after this, I didn't bother to come back and 100% the game. No. I instead just raced to beat it as fast as possible so I wouldn't have to ever touch it again. Oh, and guess what? Sergeant Bird isn't even the worst character in this game. Next wondrous character, Bentley the Yeti. To tell you the truth, Bentley really doesn't annoy me. He controls reasonably well, his gameplay does a good job contrasting Spyro's, but still fits the game very well. It's very easy to pick up and play. Not too many tutorials, not a whole lot of bullshit, just nice and easy. Bentley, unlike all the other characters, is kinda enjoyable. His gameplay doesn't feel like it's being constantly interrupted by sharp jumps or awkward movement. His only real problem is that he's boring and he doesn't get that much spotlight. But the next character is atrocious, and I mean atrocious. Easily the shittiest character in this game and quite possibly the most bizarre, awkward, and fucking stupid character to ever be put into a video game. Agent 9. Alright, I'm just gonna, like, gush for a second here. Was this some sort of practical joke? No, I'm honestly being serious. Were they high or something?
Smoke weed every day.
I want to know if they were just making a dumb joke or if they were honestly this fucking clueless. What I'm curious is how they go from Spyro 2 to this. Spyro 2, one of the most innovative, original, unique, and amazing platformers ever made to fucking this? What is this? I also want to know how you go from this to Ratchet and Clank, another phenomenal game. So, what the fuck is it? Agent 9 is basically if Ratchet and Clank sucked, and was developed by Satan. Agent 9 is a monkey with a laser gun, and it sucks. Aiming is next to impossible, there's no way to strafe backwards, you can maybe land a hit on an enemy once if you're lucky, and goddammit, why am I playing this? This is like Jeremiah Isaiah levels of stupid here.
And I'm gonna call this person out right now. I'm gonna call you out right now, Jake.
Oh, and believe it or not, we have one more character. Keep in mind, he only sounds good because he's being compared to Agent 9, and you can make anything sound good when you compare it to this abomination of a character. Next character is... what? Sparks? Yep, Spyro's little dragonfly buddy is playable, and he sucks. His levels are top-down shooters, which I didn't fucking need to play in a Spyro game. Like, do I even need to comment on this? Why is this in my Spyro game? Stop. Go away. After completing Sparks' missions, you get new abilities for Sparks. He can grab gems that are farther away, and even take an extra hit for Spyro. But, you know what else they give you, but only after completing a Sparks level? The Gem Finder. What is with this game? It feels the need to constantly undo the improvements made by Spyro 2. It makes... You're bound to notice at this point that Spyro 3 makes me pretty angry. Why is that anyway? Why aren't you just as mad at games like... No, God! Why aren't you just as mad at games like Legend of Spyro or Skylanders? Here's the thing. Those games were basically doomed from the start. Those games basically sucked from the second they were conceived. But Spyro 3 was different. It had potential. Spyro 3 could have been the next big thing after Spyro 2. Spyro 3 had potential to be the best Spyro game and the perfect send-off to the other two amazing entries in the series. And on the surface, that's what this game is. The music is great, the environments are amazing, Spyro is super fun to play as, and the speedways are... Oh, look at genius. What do you end up getting from the game as a whole? You get mostly this. And this. And also a lot of this. There are plenty of different ways they could have gone about doing this, and this seems like the worst possible approach. First off, Spyro does not get enough attention. I spent 2 entire games getting used to this one character, so can you please let me put those skills to use? In each homeworld, you're introduced to a new character, and none of the new characters get the spotlight long enough. I might have come to really enjoy Bentley's gameplay, but by the time I was starting to get a handle on his controls, the game threw a character that played completely different from him. The characters don't share much in common with Spyro or each other, and the game is constantly being thrown between them. As a result, each of the characters feel awkward, and you never get the proper amount of time to enjoy one of them. Spyro is the only fun character in this game, and he only gets about half of the game to himself. My favorite levels in this game are probably the ones that you played as Spyro, and only Spyro, like Icy Peak. Fireworks Factory might have been my favorite Spyro level ever, if they didn't make you play as Agent 9. They should have spent their time designing more levels and abilities for Spyro, instead of wasting their time on designing shit that nobody cared about. Do you seriously expect me to believe that anyone wanted to play as Sparks before Spyro 3? And if they did, would they imagine it being anything like this? No! Spyro 3 could have been so much better. Like, hey, what if they made Hunter playable in the platforming? Maybe give him some of the new abilities and shit, and, you know, let him play in his own levels. Give him exclusive abilities, you know, that stuff. That would have been kind of fun. I'm sure they would have made it work if they put their heads to it. Well, okay, you know, maybe they needed a new character. How about taking Spyro's speedbake controls and making a skin of them in the form of Sergeant Bird? Maybe instead of having him be a slippery piece of shit, you could let him fly around like Spyro did. His rockets would be great for targeting enemies. Why didn't they just do that? That would have been interesting. It might not be as good as Spyro 2, but it would at least be kind of fun. But I never wanted to play as Sheila the Kangaroo, or Sergeant Bird, so what the... Spyro 3 is no doubt the weakest of the original trilogy. Really disappointing game. I constantly find myself coming back to Spyro 1 and 2, but I never even touched 3, and this bullshit is why. Fuck. I think the best game of this trilogy is Spyro 2. Fantastic music, levels, graphics, and go watch my goddamn review of it. This game is a masterpiece. Go buy it already. Please. A good runner-up is Spyro 1, a game that I would also recommend, especially if you're a fan of mine, because, after all, I made it pretty damn clear in my review that it was my favorite game of all time. Okay, we get it. As for Spyro 3, think of it like Spyro 2.5. As a Spyro 2 fan craving more, Spyro 3 made an entertaining first run, and it's worth playing just for the speedways alone. Holy crap, they are good, trust me. But then there's the characters. Ultimately, I'd skip it. Well, that's really it for Spyro. As for the rest of the series, another time. Just not yet, but definitely another time. I promise. Believe me, I would just love to play this masterpiece of a game, but I already have plans for next week. Next week, I think I'll be having an old friend for dinner. Catch you next time.
Samcode Productions.